We're moving along pretty fast here. How everybody doing tonight? I'm Henry Hank Green. This is New Jersey Revolution Radio. All right? Tonight we're live from Mount Zion Church in Pleasantville, New Jersey, and we're having a live discussion on the cannabis, on the cannabis legislation here in New Jersey. We're trying to get information out to the public and dispel rumors and ideas, and we're sharing a lot of different thoughts tonight from many different perspectives. So we're going to continue tonight, and we're going to up next is Mr. Ramone Ramos. Mr. Ramos. There we go.
How's everybody tonight? I'm here as a regular, straight-up supporter. I work for Puffin Pipes, a smoke shop that we have in Turnersville and also in Clementon, and hopefully soon one in Westville, New Jersey. And I totally support it. The one thing that I hate that people's always said, marijuana is the gateway to every other drug. That's total crap. It's just you get tired of it, so you try something else. But they always blame as marijuana is the first thing that leads you to everything else, which is total crap. Marijuana is proven. It is a medicine, like everybody says here. We have a doctor here. It helps everybody. I work in a smoke shop. I get tons of customers. Lately, I get customers that are 80, 90 years old, and it's helping them with every problem they have. Cancer, bipolarness, everything. And these people are so scared to come into the shop to buy a water pipe or to buy anything because it's illegal. They're afraid they'd have to walk out and get locked up for having a glass piece in their hand. And it shouldn't be like that anymore. We're at a time and age where everyone's doing it. Just legalize it like everyone is saying here. Tax it, just like you do alcohol. Just the way it needs to be already. So, like I said, I totally support it. It's nothing wrong with it. Not one person has ever died from marijuana use or cannabis use. All you can do is basically smoke yourself sober. You can never get, but you really can. I mean, like I said, I'm a supporter. I have done it. You just get tired and get hungry. There's nothing behind it. They support alcohol. When you get drunk, liver cancer, you die from it. You get addicted to it. Not one person has ever passed away from smoking marijuana. It's helping all the small businesses now. In Colorado in 2015, they made $135 million in taxes. You did that here in New Jersey. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to help all the small businesses. It's going to help the small business that I work for. Now the people come in and freely purchase whatever they would like and not have to worry about stipulations or just worry about getting locked up. And we explain to the customers how to use things and how to purchase their items. They don't feel like they have to be locked up or anything. We get a lot, like I said, lately, and it's crazy for me, I'm in my 40s, and I'm getting a lot of customers that are 80, 90 years old. And they're enjoying it. They actually be able to live and go shopping and not have to worry about being in pain all day long. And it just cracks me up because I just had a retired Camden detective for 30 years. Now she's the biggest pothead I've ever seen in my life. And she's so happy about it. So, I mean, and that's crazy. It's like so many people. It helps everyone. And I know I keep repeating myself, but like I said, I'm an avid user. I have my body aches, and I'm 41 years old. I feel like I'm 80 because all the work I have done in my life. But it actually helps. It's no reason behind it. I always said it. If all 50 states legalize it, the United States will be out of debt in 1 year. We will be the richest country in the world over one little flower that could help but so much. So like I said, I'm definitely a supporter. I'm glad all you guys are here. Hopefully all of you are supporters. If you're not a supporter, you're going to become a supporter. Because it's business to be made, like everyone said. It's growing so much. And we have Hugo telling us that he's going to back us up as far as being able to get jobs and not worried about getting fired from it. And that's what we need here now in New Jersey especially. So thanks a lot, guys, and I hope you have a great night.
Ramone Ramos, Puffin Pipe. Puffin Pipe. I like the sound of that. We got some take-homes tonight, you know, some, I guess these are some herbal smoking pipes like a credit card. I don't know how to put it together, but I'll give a demonstration later. My next guest is a man that's been fighting injustice and social justice for a while now. You know, I've been talking to him a lot of times. A lot of information I get from him is about just treating people fairly and treating people right. And he's been behind this new movement to legalize marijuana and the freedom to be able to do it. And very interesting man. I think that everyone really, should listen to what he's talking about. He got a lot of good ideas and a lot of plans. Mr. Dr. Steve Fenichel. Fenichel.
So much to say and so little time to say it, unless I ignore the time limits. But anyway, with some of the previous speakers, some thoughts came to me. The last speaker talked about the rubbish calling marijuana a gateway drug. You know, if you have a gateway, you would expect the gateway will emit more into, but from marijuana, which is like this, the cocaine, the heroin are just a trickle. It's no gateway. It's a misuse of the concept. Another concept that one of the speakers brought up, I have a problem with the concept of incrementalism. I understand that there might be some differences with the healthcare movement where we believe strongly that there's only one way to scale a chasm. It's with one single leap. You don't get a second chance. And so legislation such as this should really be done right the first time, because once I believe legislation is established, it's really hard to undo it. At least the healthcare model is where I'm coming from on this. And then the other thing was that in our Physicians for a National Health program, Congressman John Conyers was a real lightning bolt. He was a real catalyst for moving the issue of single-payer health care forward. And he said something that I think is very relevant here as a follow-up. And he always used to say, no reform is better than bad reform. So those are my thoughts on some of the previous speakers, and now I'll try to put on my stethoscope and give a little background. First off, the philosopher George Santayana said something that's very relevant, I think, to this whole marijuana issue, and that is, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And to understand the failed drug war with its resulting mass incarceration, it's essential to know that the real leader of bringing about this marijuana prohibition was a man named Harry Jacob Anslinger, who got his appointment through a connection with one of the Carnegie people who was very well endowed with wealth and political connections. And Anslinger was, in 1929, an assistant commissioner in the United States Treasury Department in the department concerned with alcohol prohibition. And with the repeal of alcohol prohibition, he was seeking a new prohibition. And it was obviously to maintain his department's funding. It's interesting, too, because Anslinger, prior to the repeal of alcohol, was quoted as saying that cannabis was not a problem. It did not harm people, and there is nothing more absurd than to attribute increased violence to the people that might use marijuana. He quickly forgot what he had said, and some would argue it was just was a part of his self-agenda in his new role, maintaining himself as a commissioner of prohibition. That's some of the history for some of the young people that might not be aware of it, though I'm sure at Stockton they go into some of this thing as well. Good. The second major assault against marijuana, of course, was its scheduling as a Schedule I drug. And a Schedule I drug is the most tightly restricted drug that there is. It's reserved for drugs that are said to be dangerous and have no currently accepted medical use. And this classification, since 1970, has prohibited scientists from being able to study it and to prove otherwise, that it is wrongfully classified as a Schedule I. So if you're not allowed to do research to disprove this, I mean, it's like, whoa, this is not science. This is not justice. All right, all medicines do have some side effects. The short-term side effects for marijuana include sedation, impaired short-term memory, impaired motor coordination, and paranoia. That last one, paranoia, might be understood somewhat in terms of the societal context of people using it, being afraid that they're going to be busted. Exactly. The other legal medications, such as the benzodiazepines, Valium is one of them, opioids, which are legal, and steroids have similar side effects, with the one notable major opioid effect, which can be pretty short-term, and that's respiratory depression. And that probably is the cause of many deaths with the use of opioids, because with that respiratory depression and somnolence, or being uneasily aroused, aspiration occurs, and that often is the terminal event in these drug overdoses. But it's legal, opioids. Now, going to the long-term use of marijuana, in fact, it can be associated with a greater risk of developing psychoses, which must be scientifically studied. Also, there's an increased risk of bronchitis with smoking. But my dear friend, Robert Forchion, told me when he was a young man that he used to smoke marijuana to relieve his bronchospasms associated with asthma. Did I get that right? Yes. So, these problems with the lungs should not be an issue with the new ways of vaporizing, other delivery methods such as edibles. But this definitely contrasts with opioids, which has an 87% increase in mortality. And in fact, in the year 2015, the number of opioids deaths with prescription opioids in America was 22,598. With the benzodiazepines, it was 8,791. With marijuana, any guesses? Exactly, 0. So, the recommendation of medical cannabis must be weighed extra carefully in two specific groups. Children, the first group, because there is evidence suggests that adolescent cannabis use correlates with negative effects on brain development. And it's really important to allow the scientists to analyze this possibility. For pregnant women, being the second category, evidence suggests that cannabis may result in low birth weight babies. Longer-term effects on children also need to be studied from the mothers that do use cannabis. But limited evidence points to potential negative effects on attention span and learning after birth. But without those studies, it's not well-founded. So, in conclusion, I want to complete this scientific portion of saying that the risk-benefit ratio for cannabis in treating the top 5 conditions which it presently treats in New Jersey far outweighs the risk-benefit ratio with the benzodiazepines and the opioids. And these top 5 uses in New Jersey now include chronic pain related to musculoskeletal disorders. 2, the intractable spasticity that's seen in patients like the multiple sclerosis patient. 3, and when my friend in California told me he got a prescription because of anxiety, I said it could never happen in New Jersey, but lo and behold, it's number 3 in New Jersey, the treatment of anxiety as a legitimate medicine. And obviously, with 8,700 deaths due to benzodiazepines, clearly much safer. 4, PTSD. For our veterans that we keep sending into harm's way and come back as any normal human being would with some problem, and typically it's PTSD, marijuana is definitely a benefit. And the 5th common use is chronic pain from AIDS and the pain of cancers. In fact, my friend Robert Forchion had intractable bone pain due to a Ewing cell tumor. And when doctors offered him opioids and other strong narcotic analgesics, he declined and said, I get relief from smoking marijuana. So that concludes the science, and now, with great pleasure, I have the privilege of introducing Robert Edward Forchion. This is a day I've been looking forward to for a hell of a long time. Well, I guess I could say as soon as I got that call from Heather asking if I'd be a panelist, and when she told me that she was inviting this gentleman, I said, hey, I wouldn't miss it for the world. No one has done more to advance the concept of marijuana legalization here in New Jersey, or for that matter, I do believe, throughout the entire United States of America. He has courageously faced police harassment and abuse, multiple arrests, trials, bail because he wanted to confront the confidential informant working for the Trenton police that couldn't get him to sell him marijuana, but he got marijuana, and on a surveillance camera in Mr. Forchion's restaurant, the joint, where the part with the temple, this confidential informant put $300 in the donations, and that was where he told his handlers in the Trenton police that he was able to buy from Mr. Forchion his marijuana, and then all hell broke loose in Mr. Forchion's life. He has courageously faced all this, and what sustained him, number 1, was the love and respect, I believe, of his family and his friends. The second major sustainer was his great passion and commitment to protecting his sacrament, marijuana, as a Rastafarian. And the third thing, which really pisses off the legal system, is his absolute belief and confidence that he will be able to educate a jury to the wrongness of the law for which he was arrested and get the jury to acquit him. And that's happened on at least 3 occasions. And it really takes big you-know-what to go through what this gentleman has gone through. I got a call out of the clear blue sky 20 years ago, was it? Or whatever, 1998. And he said, I'd like to speak with Dr. Fenichel, who I understand is a physician who really is opposed to the laws pertaining to marijuana. And I said, well, yes, that's me. And he said, I would really be appreciative if you would consider being a medical witness at my trial. To which I said that, yeah, but I need to, do you have documents? He said, I do. And I think it was like the next day he came to my home with 2 boxes of documents. And it wasn't long in reviewing them that I knew he was a very legitimate medical marijuana patient. And I was committed to being by his side, and it was 2 or 3 trials that I had the greatest education from someone who really would have been the most wonderful lawyer, but hopefully he'll be able to be a lawyer without that piece of paper in helping other people. But I learned about jury nullification. And when I committed to being there on his side, I realized that I had just signed up to go to a NORML meeting in DC. NORML is the National Organization to Reform Marijuana Laws. And, you know, I got back to Mr. Forchion and said, look, I'm going to this meeting. Would you like to come? And he said, I sure would. And we agreed to meet at my office in Absecon. And I wasn't aware of it, but he got a big kick out of it. My address was 420 West Church Street. I didn't know what the hell 420 was all about, but I have since learned. And, you know, our road trip has led to a very strong bond and a great awareness of the injustice that is done in the name of marijuana prohibition. And with that, I would like to introduce you to a great American hero and patriot, Mr. Robert Edward Forchion.
In fact, I'll just hold it. Okay, wow. Before I get into what I was going to say, I have to address a few things the doc said. Number one, I don't take too many people into my really, really tight circle and call somebody a friend. 20 years or so now, I've been calling Doc a friend. So he's one of the few people I call a friend. I even call Ken a friend. Me and Ken are friends too. I don't know anybody else on the panel, but you know, me and Ken disagree on a few things, but I consider Ken a friend too. And like I said, met Doc 20 years ago after I got arrested, and I got to tell a whole bunch. I first started smoking marijuana when I was 14. It was actually an accident. And when I say an accident, I don't mean like I slipped and fell and a joint fell in my mouth. I don't mean that. I mean, prior to my 14th birthday, maybe 12 or 13, I had tried to smoke cigarettes. I had asthma. Every time I tried to smoke, I coughed, gagged. For 2 days, I was wheezing. So I real quickly learned, don't steal Dad's cigarettes. And then one day, right about my 14th or 15th birthday, I was at a cousin's house, and his friends came over, and they were all smoking weed, and peer pressure got to me, so I tried it. Oh, shoot, I didn't cough. Got back in a rotation, cut in line, everything. Took it again. Like, whoa. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is different than tobacco. And then that pleasurable sensation happened. And I've been stuck smoking weed ever since. But I don't think that was a bad thing. Wait a minute, times have changed. Think about this. 20 years ago when I got busted, 1997, November 24th, at about 10:15 a.m. in the morning while I was listening to Howard Stern. Anyway, I got arrested. I'll never forget that day. But I never would have imagined having a conversation about legalization in a black church. Whoa. Have times changed? No lightning coming through to strike me. No church lady to pull out a broom, chase me out of here. And here we are having an adult conversation about, well, times have changed. Before I could say marijuana with no problem, weed, ganja, whatever, nobody said nothing. Now I say marijuana and 3 people want to throw something at me and say it's cannabis. So again, times changed, right? Come on, man. I slip sometimes in the wrong place, marijuana, and 3 people are like, you're engaging in racism, dude. Like, come on, man. We've been calling it marijuana forever, and hey, it's marijuana to me. It's ganja, it's herb, it's weed. I mean, I'm a weed man. I'm not even cannabis man. I'm weed man. Well, anyway, listen, where I want to start this at, as far as me goes, I myself was opposed to SB, State Bill 2703, for numerous reasons. And again, times changed. I could have never imagined me, the kid at 18, 19, who was advocating legalization. I remember I was in the Marines, and I argued to my sergeant and the corpsman that I could easily stop this wheezing that I was eventually kicked out of the military for if I was just allowed to smoke marijuana. And those are part of the documents I gave the doc one time. I told him, like, listen, in 1987, I was in the Marines, and I was arguing for medical marijuana, and I showed him the document. They just called me a drug addict, though, by the way. They were like, he's just a drug addict. He self-medicates with drugs, which, again, I never even called marijuana a drug. It's herb. You know, I even have a shirt that says that. I don't do drugs. I smoke weed. You know, how many other people feel that way? You know? But since I brought that up, I wasn't even planning to talk about this. What do you guys think about concentrates? Love them? Still, when I smoke marijuana, I don't feel like I'm doing drugs. But when I get the little dab pen and I stick it on the nail and I stick it on this thing and I fire up a torch, I do feel like I'm doing drugs. Weed crack. Tree basin. What? I never could get into that, though, to be honest with you. I did it a few times every once in a while. Even at 50-something years old, I can fall to some peer pressure, and somebody get me to smoke some every once in a while. But I just smoke weed. I like the ritual of smoking weed, and I roll it up in a joint. I don't even like vapes. I roll it up in a joint. I don't do blunts. But, all right, 2703 to me would make a lot of people millionaires, or actually a few people millionaires. A few corporations would get bigger. A few corporations would come to the state and create huge monopolies. And sure, there's a little bit of handout and giveaways, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I think it's being done all backwards. And it's too late. It's not like they're going to suddenly change from this big corporate model that they've decided to follow, like, say, after Colorado. Me, myself, if I was in charge 10 years ago, I'd have been saying things like, no, look at what they're doing in California. And I think California's a lot better the way they're doing it. It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. This 2703, like Ken said, it's not perfect. But then again, I like what the doc said. You know, when you want to take that leap over the chasm, you only get one shot. You know, you don't get two jumps to get across that hole. You're going to fall and burn, you know. But so I think 2703 doesn't go far enough. I think 2703 ignores the existing black market. The existing black market that I've participated in for a long time, off and on, even now, when I really get broke, I mean, they got GoFundMes now, so I've tried that too. But when I really get broke, I know I can always buy a couple pounds of marijuana, get it fronted sometimes, and distribute it. In fact, on my official police records, my occupation says marijuana provider. Like, it really says that. And I've never felt that I was a drug dealer. When I was in the 90s, I'll give you a little history. I got out of the Army in 1991. For a few months, I fiddle-faddled around, did nothing. But eventually, I started driving trucks, and somehow I ended up in Arizona on some trip. That same cousin that I smoked that first joint with, his family at some point when we were teenagers moved to Arizona. I hadn't seen him in 10, 15 years. And then in like 1992, boom, we're hanging out, me and him. And again, he's like, want to smoke some weed? Sure. And he didn't have any money, so I pulled out like $100. And he was like, man, you can almost get a pound for that here. I was like, what? It's like $300. Like, what? I was like, at the time I had like $1,000 on me. So of course I got 3 pounds. And I brought it to New Jersey, and I sold all 3 of them for $1,000. And I was like, I gotta get another load back to Arizona. Of course, then it was 30 pounds, and then it was 100 pounds. And then I started doing that every once in a while. So I do represent the black market. The 90s to me was great. I bought a house, car. I was going to Disneyland when I felt like I had 3 cars. In fact, I had a Corvette, a Jaguar, and a Cadillac all at one time at one point, and a $50,000 tractor trailer. Well, I mean, it's hard work too. I did drive it sometimes, but it was really the revenue from the black market sale of marijuana. And this exists all over the country, and it's been like this because of the prohibition. Because of the prohibition, whole industries have been created, one of them being the cannabis industry. And sometimes it even irritates me when I hear people say the cannabis industry in New Jersey is like doing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, the cannabis industry in New Jersey has not sold not one single bud. The black market supplies to 650,000 people in New Jersey who buy weed now. Right now, if any of you are buying weed, you're buying it through the black market. Sure, there's a couple of yous, 40,000 people that get it through the medical marijuana, the ATCs. Sure, there's a few of yous. What percentage of that is that? I don't know, 3%, 5%? Get it legally through and technically that's still illegal because federally it's always illegal. But 100% of New Jerseyans get their marijuana from the black market. Nothing in 2703 is going to stop that. You know what would stop that? Including us. Listen, they want to charge $42 an ounce tax? I'll give you an extra eighth. You know, instead of getting 28 grams for an ounce, 28 grams an ounce at $175, I'll add an eighth and charge you $225. Go to the black market. Go to the new market, the ATCs. First of all, they charge you $500 an ounce. I always think people who pay $500 an ounce are idiots, and I got 3 of them for you. Here you go. Here you go. I got 3 of them for you. If you're going to spend that much, here. In fact, I'll take $50 off. And they should be happy since they're paying $500 an ounce and they're willing to pay taxes. And people are championing this. Again, I have differences of opinion on that. I've been vilified for it. I've been, for the last 20 years, been very open about my advocacy for legalization. And people have practically called me a traitor for not being down with 2703. And again, I'm 110% down on legalization. I think I've gone up and above. I've risked my own freedom and my own life advocating this. My family thinks I went crazy when I got arrested in 1997. I didn't go crazy, but whatever. So people have been upset with me, the fact that I've been so adamant about not like in 2703. And the incremental approach, I don't know, some people say, yeah, well, you got to take a step before you walk a mile, but I don't know. I just don't feel that if they make this law, if 2703 was made law now, sure, there's obvious things that could be fixed, but if 2703 was made legal right now, I myself, just the marijuana I possess right now would still get me arrested. It wouldn't change nothing at all. Sure, if I had a gram in my pocket and a police officer pulled me over, would I not get arrested? Yes. But if I tried to sell some, I could still get arrested. If I tried to grow some, I could still be arrested. And people, this is the Garden State, come on. Of all the states in America who, the Garden State should be growing marijuana. Come on, how are you going to call it the Garden State and this plant we can't grow? Like, what? The Garden State, they've actually banned a particular plant. I'm sure there's other plants banned, but, of all the states that have legalized it so far, 10, 11 of them, they all allow home grow. Just for that alone, if I didn't get into my particular issue, I'm just going to talk about that. Just home grow. I think this law shouldn't pass just because of that. Now, we can get into other things. I'll get to my last one last. The social equity aspect of it and the expungement aspects of it. I'll go with the expungements first. First of all, 40 years ago, if you said expungements, what was expungements 40 years ago, 50 years ago? It was you doing your paperwork, a judge saying this, that, and the other. They go to the county records, and they destroy it. It's gone. That's it. But this is the 21st century, people. Everything's on the internet. You got arrested last month. You got arrested 10 years ago. It's on the internet. There are corporations all over the country that they make their money buying, selling, collecting this information, and just say you want to look up your girlfriend. Oh, you just pay $9.95 to one of these companies, and they'll give you everything. They'll tell you whether it got expunged or not. For another $9.95, you can find out what her dad did. It's expungements to me. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. I don't know. I just that's not an aspect that's a positive to me because I already know that you can just look it up. You go to Walmart. Walmart does not contact your county judicial system to find out what your record is. They hire one of these companies, and one of these companies are going to tell the HR department at Walmart that, yep, he was arrested in 1998, he was arrested in 2002, and it doesn't even say marijuana, it says CDS, so you don't even know if it's heroin or cocaine or what. You just don't get fired. You just don't get hired. So I'm not that thrilled about the expungement aspect. Plus, the expungements is like for possession. Possession is not really, how should I put it? Yes, that's what most people get arrested for possession. But if you're really in the black market, you're going to get arrested from time to time you're going to get charged with distribution. It's happened to me 3 times. So you're going to get charged with distribution. As far as I know, distribution is not included in this expungement. I don't know. Is distribution included in that, Ken? Okay, well, that's what they're proposing, up to 5 pounds. I got arrested the first time with 39 pounds, the second time with 15 pounds, so it doesn't mean anything to me. And I know numerous people just like that. And we're all entrepreneur-type people. You can call us drug dealers all you want. Both my parents own businesses. That's what was always been in me. I hate working for anybody. I work for myself. I've had trucking business. I had a couple little businesses. Even now, I feel happy. I'm making no money, but I'm working for myself, And it's the same thing with people who sell marijuana or do it. People, oh, you're just lazy and just sell weed. Just go get a job. It is a job. There's 650,000 people in New Jersey who need us. I got a job. It's called a marijuana provider. There's a weed man in every single community. I don't care what community you live in. There's a weed man. I'm just a little vain. I claim the entire state. I'm the New Jersey weed man. But there's a weed man everywhere. In fact, there was a weed lady in the town I lived in, and she was there for years, from the time I was a teenager until the time I got out of the Army, Miss Brown, and she always sold weed. People knocked on her window at night. Her neighbors had to put a big giant fence up because they were tired of seeing people walking down the side of their house. But she was the weed lady. And the weed lady is the person, or the weed man, they're like the good guys of the neighborhood too. You know, you can always count on your weed man. So what gets me about this new law also is, as they're talking about legalization, they're totally excluding your weed man. And the people out there who get their weed from the weed man don't even argue for us. When you have your headache, who you call? Your weed man. You ladies out there, when you've had your women issues, your pains, your cramps, who did you call? You called the weed man. And now that it's being made legal and your politicians are excluding us, nobody says, hey, but what about my weed man? Like, this guy, I've been buying weed from him for 20 years, and now it's going to be legal and he's still going to go to jail? Like, come on, y'all got to start speaking up for your weed man. Not me personally, but your weed man. You gotta demand inclusion of the black market. Otherwise, listen, it's not gonna work. I don't care what they say. I personally have started because I'm an activist. Listen, I gotta tell you something. My mother is like I think I told this to Doc before. My mom was like an Angela Davis wannabe. She's still alive, but she's like an Angela Davis wannabe. I mean, she told us about this, told us about that. I mean, we had private classes where I learned about Rosa Parks, or I had private classes where I learned about Medgar Evers and things like that at the house. Some of my activism over the years, I've always put it into the same category as civil rights. I know the statistics long before Normal or the ACLU put out big reports about it. I knew the statistic. People I know got arrested. People who look like me got arrested far more than people who look like people in here. So I already knew those statistics. And to me, the war on drugs was always a civil rights issue. I can remember really being mad about NAACP people I would talk to, and they wouldn't be down with it. It would be like, no, it's drugs. You can't defile the temple of your body, and this, that, and the other. And again, back to, I can't believe we're having this conversation in the black church. Like, what? Somebody give me a joint, because I'm tripping. I can tell who the potheads are. I mean, I got weed dar. And it's been ding, ding, dinging in here like crazy. But where am I at now? Yo, this is a funny thing, too, real quick. The first time I went to prison, it's anecdotal evidence. If you ask, there's two medical people here. So this is anecdotal evidence. But prior to me going to prison, I've been smoking pretty much every day for 10 years. From the time I got out of the Army in 1991 to the time I went to prison in 2001. I pretty much smoked every day. Boom. Within 3 months of me going to prison, this knot formed on my leg. And every time I would ask go to the infirmary, they basically gave me an aspirin and told me go lay down. And from jail, I called Doc. I said, Doc, there's something growing on my leg, and the nurse here don't care. Nobody cares. I can't get in touch with nobody, blah, blah, blah. Doc came in on a visit, had me sit in front of him, and started feeling my leg and rolled my pants up, and he knew right away there's some type of tumor. And he made some phone calls, and within a few months, I actually had a surgery and everything because of Doc. And they took it out. I probably wouldn't have happened if I didn't happen to know a doctor who was actually willing to come into a prison. I call them the New Age concrete plantation systems, by the way. I really don't very rarely use the word prison. It's a concrete plantation system. You know, there's different plantations around. They catch people the same way. They put them in, you know. Anyway, I don't want to get on that. We're talking about weed right now. I can get into the prison industrial complex just as easily since I've been there a couple times. But this time, like Doc said, I was in jail for 447 days. Doc, did you notice? Since I got out of jail, I got to use glasses. Yeah, what? The first time I went to prison for any amount of time, I got a tumor. The second time, my eyes went bad. Like, what? Like, I was in jail. I was like, again, anecdotal evidence, but I think it was the fact that I wasn't using marijuana that my eyes went bad. Or I just became 55, so who knows. But I don't know, I felt that way. Where am I at? Equity and legalization. A again, I don't think 2703 equates that. And the only reason why I think equity is very important is because the governor ran on that. That's what he ran on. He kept talking about equity and legalization. We're going to have diversity. We're going to help the communities that were victimized by the war on drugs, blah, 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 blah. And then they present 2703, which I don't think that happens. For one thing, the major thing, reason why I don't think it comes to the level of equity and legalization is because it still has a felony ban. So think about this. You got the war on drugs, which, you know, you can call it racist, you can call it wrong, whatever word you want to use for it. But anyway, for 50, 60, 70 years, we had this prohibition on pot. People caught felonies, people went to prison, the whole 9 yards. Now, this new age, we're going to legalize it. The word legalization doesn't mean legalization, by the way. But we're going to legalize it now. But they're going to use the same results, the trophies of the prohibition to prevent people from getting into this new era. Me having a felony, me having felonies of over 5 pounds of marijuana, totally prevent me from being in this new age era. And there's a lot of people just like me. And I can speak about a lot of urban areas. There is a set market already. There's a black market. There's people existing. There is an industry already. I mean, it doesn't have brick buildings and stuff because they take it. It's something called asset forfeiture. If you really set up a building that said, Raheem's Reefer Shop, I guarantee you'll get busted really, really quick. I mean, look what happened to me, NJ Weedman's joint. Anyway. So, I don't know. I don't get how we got social equity and under this bill. Even if you say, okay, we're going to give micro licenses to 30%. But first of all, I don't even want to give away. I don't want to hand out. I'd rather have equality. I'd rather have a level playing field. If I could just fill out an application and sign an application, I think from there I could probably get money. And say there's something a lot of people don't know here either, that at some point I was so frustrated in 2006 that I went to California, and within a few months, I was working at a dispensary, and then for personal reasons I came back home, I readjusted and went back in 2007, and when I came back in 2007, within months of me getting there, in late 2007, by September of 2008, I had a dispensary. My dispensary was on Hollywood Boulevard. It was legal under the state rules, but later the DEA came and destroyed my business in 2013, like they did a lot of people, okay, and which brought me back to New Jersey. And since then, I've been lining up and gearing up thinking the legalization was coming here, and I was going to get myself in a position to do it. I'm pretty much out there, like, I want to sell weed. I don't want to have one of the ancillary services. I don't want to make cupcakes. I don't want to, provide the bottles for a dispensary. I want to sell bud. In fact, I don't even say I want to. I'm going to continue to sell bud. And, I've been as much as I've called myself NJ Weedman, I could have just easily called myself jury nullification man, because I've been advocating publicly for a long time about jury nullification. If people don't understand jury nullification in a really, really quick definition, a jury can do whatever it wants to do. A jury can utilize its conscience to render a decision based on that conscience. Me, I've always felt like, I think I can come to a black church and talk about marijuana. And there would be people in that church who would not send me to prison if I even said I was, and now it really happened, but so 12 people in the jury each time in the last couple years that I've been caught. That's been my argument to the jury, that basically the law's wrong. Yep, my last jury, no, not the last one. 2012, when Doc was on my as one of my expert witnesses. My opening statement to the jury was on the fact that, okay, I've been calling myself New Jersey Weed Man for 15 years. What do you expect me to get caught with? A nickel bag? No. I had a pound of weed. And then I argued that the pound of weed, you should make the prosecutor give it back to me. I said it's best to buy in bulk, right? Who knows that concept? I see, look. Buy in bulk, man. Do not go to street corners every other week or every day and buy an eighth, okay? It comes to like $5,000, I could do the math, but it comes to like $5,000 a pound if you do it like that. But you can buy a pound for $2,000 and let it last you 2 months. People do it with cigarettes all the time. How many people here go every day to Wawa and buy a pack of cigarettes? Come on, you're just hiding. There's somebody in here does that every day. You people who buy the cartons of cigarettes, though, and make it last a month, it works out a whole lot better. I mean, you can transfer this to everything. People who buy big cases of beer and let it last all month, as opposed to the dude that goes every day and buys a six-pack. So when I got caught, one of the things I argued to the jury was that I'm buying in bulk. It's possession. It's mine. There is no evidence of me selling it. I absolutely would have shared it, though. And that was a little stretch even to say there was no evidence that I was going to sell it, because I've been selling it for years, but whatever. The state couldn't present any of that evidence, and the jury went for it. And I'm not saying they got duped. I'm saying that the public, Donald Trump talks about how he can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it amongst his followers. He wouldn't lose any followers. I personally have been saying this for a long time. I think I'm unconvictable when it comes to weed charges. As long as I don't hurt nobody. Because I'm not going to hide. Yep, it's my weed. Yep, the law's wrong. And that brings me to another point. The black market has won the war on drugs. When I was a kid, they were going to eradicate it. We were going to have no drugs. We have to get drugs out of the street, drugs off the corner. First of all, there's way more drugs now. There's drugs now that I never heard of when I was a kid. People are making it in their bathrooms now. But anyway, now the public supports legalization. I don't think if I'm caught, and it's already proven that twice for sure, I'll say 4 times, Doc said 3, but I say 4 times, that I've been caught red-handed and jury nullification has influenced my not guilty verdict. And I was guilty by law, but I don't think I was guilty by the people. And even now, I've started a hashtag and I've started a campaign that basically is against 2703, and I've basically been saying, hashtag sell weed like I'm white. And I know people, oh, you're a racist. I don't think so. Listen, think of it this way. Rosa Parks refused to get to the back of the bus. She sat there. Back then, if there was hashtags, maybe the hashtag would have said, hashtag stay up front. You know what I mean? The Freedom Riders who rode down south and sat at the diners. Again, that was 1963, 62, 58. There wasn't hashtags then. There wasn't you couldn't digitally reach other people. They would have had a hashtag says I'm eating at the diner up front. Well, I'm saying my hashtag, I'm selling weed like I'm white. And the reason why I'm saying that is because 2703 lets rich white people, rich white corporations own this new cannabis market that's coming here. They even stole the name. They're the cannabis market, and they don't even they haven't sold a bud here yet. I sold more yesterday than they sold here, okay? But they've stolen the name. I call it the Columbusization of the cannabis movement. Christopher Columbus came here and said he discovered it. It was his. I found America. These guys come from all over the place. We're the cannabis industry. We run this thing. And they ain't sold a bud yet. Not a legal one, at least. I don't care about the legality of it. In fact, you come in my restaurant, there's a big sign that says, fuck the law, smoke it anyway. And I've been saying that for a long time. Sorry, excuse my French in a black church. But I've been saying that for a long time. It also contributes to my arguments about jury nullification. I always think that, you know what? No one's going to find me guilty of that, especially if I put it out there. Like, this is how I feel about it. And there are going to be people who don't agree. And it doesn't matter where I'm at. somebody agrees with me. And you get 12 people on the jury, they're not going to agree. So back to where I was going in the beginning was, why are the losers, the politicians, why are they dictating the terms of their surrender? Their surrender, because they have not won this war on drugs. They haven't won the war on pot. They haven't eradicated nothing. I never, ever thought that there would be a headline that said, the government has won this war on pot. There's no more pot. The government has won this war on drugs. There's no more drugs. I have never thought Senator Scutari or Senator Sweeney or whoever could get up there and say, we won. I think I can say that. People like me can say that. We won. It's about ready to be legal. Now, the terms of surrender, their terms of surrender, this 2703 is not sufficient. Not sufficient at all. Like, the winners are being excluded. Usually in a war, and they called it a war, they've called it a war since I was a kid. It was a war on drugs. It was a war on this, a war on that. Everything was a war. They enforced it by war. They enforced it with disguising police officers like soldiers. When I got arrested, the guy had a little MAC-10 in my face. You know, that's a weapon of war. It's an assault weapon. But now, again, if you're going to put it in war terms, and that's what it's been that way for me. I ended up in a prison. The terms of surrender, usually the winner dictates the terms of surrender. Right now, we got the government dictating it. Certain politicians who I would classify as losers, they lost. Go back, look at what they said 20 years ago. Go look at what they said 15 years ago, and now what they're saying. They're capitulated. They have not kind of like just conceded loss, but they're trying to dictate the spoils of war, and the spoils of war is not coming to the winners, the people who won, and that's the way I look at it. I'm not going to comply, to be honest with you. I haven't complied with a lot of things. I comply with most laws, but I have not complied with the cannabis laws, the marijuana laws, pretty much my whole life. And I can't see anything in 2703 that would suddenly make me comply with 2703. Like, oh, it's legal now. I will stop selling weed. I won't sell weed. I won't help other people sell weed. And I'll go to these corporations, this monopoly that the politicians just put together. Nope. It's not happening. And there's a lot of people just like me who feel the same way. It's like irritating and everything. It's like, why? I gotta go. First of all, when you buy weed, I mean, like, kind of, like, who wants to go to this big industrial-looking corporation place and buy weed when your whole lives you've bought weed from the guy down the street, or went to the record store, or, you know, it depends on where you're at. You went to the bodega or the barber shop, and you did your little side deal on the side. I mean, I used to go to this barber shop for years. I know you can't believe that now, but I used to go to this barber shop, and that's where I got my weed. When I started selling weed, I had like 3 barber shops on my drops. You know, like, I used to go to Arizona and pick up hundreds of pounds of weed, and I'd bring it back. Probably 2 or 3 barber shops in Camden I supplied, a couple of them in North Philly I supplied. And it's like that anywhere you go in the country. If I popped into Memphis, Tennessee tomorrow, if I really want to look for weed, go to the barber shop. I don't know, let's see, where am I at now? I got the rambling. I know, I'm done. I think I was just going to say, you know, 2703 was swapping out racist prohibition for racist legalization. And I think I was going to touch on, I was going to, again, say that with I'm going to steal that, by the way. The incrementalism is a bridge. You know, you have to jump over the entire chasm. You got to take a single leap, you know. You don't get 2 shots at it. And I think 2703, we should take the best shot now. I'm glad it did not pass. I hope it could be fixed. I hope it could include people like me. I have a feeling it's not. I have a feeling at some point there's going to be payments made. There's going to be politicians that are going to change their no votes to yes votes, and basically 2703 is going to stay exactly where it is. And in that case, the black market's not going anywhere. And again, remember me. I got $175 ounces.
Well, thank you. And that is the weed man, Mr. Ed Forchion. One of the things I have to say about Ed, again, his stance against the government and his position, you got to have some big kahunas and a lot of heart, you know what I mean, to stand up and a passion for what you believe in. And this is what it takes. It takes special people to do that. Everyone don't stand up for what they believe in our community, outside of our community, what have not. So I really appreciate that about you, that you don't just let anything go. You don't let people dictate, you know what I mean, what you're supposed to do according to the rules or whatever that other people say. You stand up for yourself as a man and as an individual, and I have a lot of respect for you and a lot of respect for that, and I appreciate you in our community doing that. This is New Jersey Revolution Radio. I'm Henry Hank Green, the voice of AC. We're going to continue on with our show tonight. It's been a lovely event, a lot of information, a lot of different viewpoints. So we want to really get into a quick question and answer with the panel real fast. I know a lot of these folks, you know, may have a lot other lives besides this right here, and they want to get home, so we want to try to get them in and make that happen real fast. So we would like to ask if anyone to line up on one of the sides of the room if you have any questions, and you would like to ask the particular person in the panel. I have a microphone up here for the panel.
Well, first, thanks very much, New Jersey Revolution Radio, for hosting this. This was fantastic. And for all the panelists, it was great. Mr. Forchion, have you spoken directly with Senator Sweeney or the Governor Murphy? Because your arguments are so sound. And I don't know if you have any confidence in those politicians or if you've done that.
Not really. I've seen Senator Sweeney. In fact, I think there's a picture we took together one time, but I haven't really talked to Senator Sweeney. Years ago, I think I started kind of insulting Senator Scutari, so I'm not sure if he'd even want to talk to me, but I haven't made an effort to talk to him either. I kind of say the things I got to say out public, and I don't know, I always thought people who like talked on their couch and talked to their neighbors or whatever didn't get the message out. So I've talked to the press a lot. I've made websites and I've put out my positions, and no, I haven't. And you know, as far as the politicians recently, I mean, they went to Colorado and they have a way of doing. They wanted to do this whole corporate model, which was done also with Kuma, with the compassionate use of marijuana. So I think that I don't know. I feel like overwhelmed. I'm just one guy. There was 1,000 of me maybe, but there's not.
So first off, I just, reiterating thank you to the panelists. Thank you to New Jersey Revolution Radio for hosting this. Thank you especially to the NJ Weedman for being here and speaking. And something that you said is something that I felt strongly about for a number of years now. The fact that New Jersey's legislation is excluding the existing providers is just absurd to me. What do you think, and if anyone else on the panel also wants to participate, especially Hugh having the labor background, what do you think might be a good way to sort of work in the existing providers, the existing suppliers, to really make SB 2073 something that's actually worth having?
Me, myself, to actually say how you would do it in the bill, I think goes over my pay grade, to be honest with you. But, there was a time that I was against decriminalization. I was the decrim. I was against that. I was thinking, no, we need legalization. But now that legalization is here like it is, no, maybe we should decrim first, and then got into legalization, which seems to be more like corporatization to me. So, I don't know, but I just think it's done wrong. It should be done a little better. Maybe I don't have the right answers when it comes to that, but I can clearly see it's done wrong. It's excluding too many people, and because of the way they're doing it, they're not even going to get rid of the black market, which is one of their stated goals. Again, they're stating this as part of their war on drugs. They're stating that they're going to try to eradicate the black market, and in fact, like I just told you, it helps. It helps us. $500 ounces, $42 taxes. Again, I got a couple ounces right now for $175.
So It's a good question, and it's a long-term question. First off, I believe that there has to be regulation. There has to, and to not think that there's going to be corporatization of cannabis. I mean, it's bound to happen. The question is 30% enough for minorities and women with micro license? Is it enough? Does it open up the doors for everybody? No, it doesn't. But it's a good start, in my view, as long as it's done correctly. If it's done correctly, nonpartisan way, the Cannabis Commission truly gives out licenses that are to deserving folks who understand the industry, who understand how to grow properly, who understand packaging and the processes from seed to sale. There needs to be regulation. Is there going to be a black market? Of course. There's still going to be a black market, but I don't think it's going to be as prevalent as people think it's going to be. If you look at Oregon, for example, Oregon has a major issue because there is basically, as NJ Weedman says, you can go in, get a license, and you can sell, and you can open up a business. The issue with that is now they're selling $40 ounces, $60 ounces. For the consumer, it's great, but does that provide long-term tax revenue that could be put into our infrastructure? Can it be taken so that we provide it for senior services, for children, for those who are on the working poor? No. It's not the model that I think is the correct model. Also, looking at this, if you look at it, there is also the issue of the long-term bill for a long-term view. Alcohol has been, since out of prohibition, there's constant conversation about alcohol and changing standards and regulations on it. Cannabis is going to be the same way. The most important thing to do is to have public conversation about it and keep fighting for the things that need to be fought for. This is not going to be done when they pass the bill. There's still going to be activism, even from a labor standpoint. It's a bill that I'm concerned about. There's not enough labor standards in there to protect working class people in there and protect communities. Taxation is another issue. So I think this is going to be a long-term struggle, but there needs to be regulation, and we need to find ways to also make sure that entrepreneurs in their local communities can be involved. I think the black market will eventually.
Now, SB 27 really is the introduction of the opposite of corporate cannabis. It is allowing for micro licenses for production, for distribution, for wholesaling, and for cultivation. And this is a start to repair the damages that have been done to the mostly poor community. Basically, it's the poor community that suffered so much. Ed glamorizes the illegal market, but the illegal market has problems associated with it. It sells to minors. It doesn't check IDs. It uses minors in its distribution system. It sells contaminated marijuana. It sells marijuana whose contents are unknown. You don't know whether you're getting sativa or indica. You don't know if you're getting high THC or low THC. You don't know what you're getting. And that's a problem. Not only that, but the illegal market doesn't have resource to the courts, so it cannot settle its disputes except by violence. That's why I'm hearing these gunshots in Trenton, because there is so much violence associated with the illegal market. So the illegal market is a problem, and this is a way to address it. This is a way to deal with some of the problems that are associated with the illegal market. SB 2703 deserves your support. And it really ticks me off that advocates are opposed to this, just the way advocates were opposed to the legalization bill in Ohio. The legalization bill in Ohio said, well, they call that corporate cannabis. And they said, no, we can't have this, even though it had a home cultivation in Ohio. But the advocates were opposed to it. And now Ohio's got nothing. It's got years and years more of prohibition. And that's wrong. We have the opportunity now to change this, to drive a stake into the heart of the war on drugs by passing this legalization law. This legalization law will not only work for New Jersey, but it will inspire our region and our country to progress with further reforms of marijuana laws.
Say, as someone who would love to see an equitable legalization, I have a real problem when someone has paid such a steep price as the weed men throughout our country, at least in the state of New Jersey, are convicted felons that can't expunge their record and therefore are not able to participate in any way. I think that, you know, for me, I would be very supportive if those two major issues were not ignored, but were thoroughly addressed, because truly, without that, it's not right as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do we have a next question?
Hi, thank you very much for having this tonight. My name is Michael Brennan. I'm a patient and caregiver advisor. I'm also a trustee for the Coalition of Medical Marijuana of New Jersey. Hello, Stereo. And yeah, Ed, I think we met back in the 90s, early 90s. You were in your truck and we just sat at White Dot and BS'd for a while. So getting to the point is, yeah, and you do bring up a wonderful thing of the culture that I've grown up in. You know, also, although I think I might have started with reefer about 12, my other experiments didn't start for a couple years later. The point was that the people that I love, people in my family, from my parents through my brother, people that are no longer with me, all loved this plant, all knew about the herb and how it can help us. And that's the culture. And the Weedman's going to be part of that, and you can go out just about a lot of windows out in the country and knock on them and get your $10 Laub, or if you want your cheaper Reggie's, fine. But that never helped me once get off of. I had two of these for 12 and a half years to ambulate. I'm a spinal cord injury and some of those musculoskeletal issues, chronic pain, of which having a legal access to this, to titrate, to be able to change my life, to see my family's life change for the better, to be able to see the expungements, to be able to want to, oh man, I got so fucking pissed off, excuse me. My brother just passed away last week, and he had 2 felonies on this from when he was 18, 19 years old. And I really, I got him to sign him up and get his card, and was really hoping to be able to see his record get expunged someday. But yeah, to see how not just me being a kid and having that little CDS on my record affect my financial aid, never got it. You know, job things. Even my application for affordable housing several years later, obviously, when I was applying for it, showed up then. So expungement doesn't really erase it, but it does say it can't be used against you when it's up there, and that's the expungement thing of it. Just like I'm trying to make a separation here because we're talking about the law now. And I'm sorry, I missed a couple people. Is there any attorneys here? Does anybody represent? Okay, because my point is that we need to look at the legalization and end prohibition now while we have a chance. This is about building a bridge, not about taking any leaps over the Grand Canyon, but about building a bridge. And we've had some legalization here, and when you start looking at the other bills that exist in the other 10 states, this is one of the most socially better bills written. It's just the only one that is even talking about social justice issues. Now, the other states, I mean, yeah, it's all there in the culture, and everyone's there for it. But again, there's little things that need to be hammered out. Just because we get to legalization doesn't mean the advocate's job is done. You know, I get to this point where I look at how many people at 34,000, I think it's 2017, 34,000 a year being busted for possession. We want that to go away. We only have 45,000 patients now. There's at least another 600,000 still suffering. We want that to go away. SB 2703, well, guess what? It's a step in the right direction. We need to end prohibition now. It's senseless. It's a war on people of, yeah, not just color, people that don't got too much money in their life either. You know, it's not about a skin thing or a race thing, it's about a class thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we're about to conclude our forum. I did want to just ask one more thing amongst the group. I mean, we're talking around, you know, I mean, these companies and corporations that are making money and coming in, and they're just allowing them to be able really to make the money, and they're charging so much money to get in the game. You have to have so much money to get in the game. But all right, whoever makes money is money. My issue is when we're talking about everyone's skin color and all of that stuff, why don't we just decriminalize it if it's not something and we're going to make money off it? Why is it still criminal? Why is there still a criminal aspect to it then? And, you know, so why is it still being money? You mean, is it still, you know, why can't we just decriminalize it? It just seemed like a simple thing to do. And so I think we need to look at that reason why we just don't decriminalize it as the real issue and the real problem and the real thinking of what's going on here.
One thing I wanted to add is we're forgetting one thing here, okay? This is something you can grow. It's a plant. At the end of the day, tomatoes can be grown, right? You eat a tomato, there's different varieties of tomato. Not for you. I'm also, hang on. What I'm trying to get at this is I agree that legalization should happen and expungement is very real. I mean, you can't participate in other aspects of society unless you have the ability to have that record expunged, right? Whether or not it'll erase the fact that you've been arrested, let's face it, that's out there, and people can know that, but you have the ability to participate in other aspects of life, like get access to support services that you need, like get fair access to housing. Why should a record stop you? I agree with all that. The one thing that I don't agree with is not being able to put these beautiful magical beans in the ground. Everybody should be able to plant this if everyone could and grow it. There would be no need to tax it. There would be no need for a regulatory this is nuts. Does anybody else not see that you could plant this in your garden and you could grow it? You don't even have to have amazing skills. Hell, I could teach anybody in the room to put it in the ground. I mean, there's varieties that you could be an idiot and grow, okay? What I'm trying to say is if everybody had access to these magical beans, can you imagine going to a Home Depot where you buy, I mean, maybe that's not where you want to get your tomato seeds. Maybe you have your, stuff that you get from your dad, like I do. But my point is, imagine if you can go and just buy the seed and put it in the ground. What the heck do you need to tax and regulate? If everyone has access to grow it, this is nonsense. It's agriculture. Let's face it, if you want to call it agriculture, let's call it agriculture. Because at the end of the day, things can be made from this magical product. It helps people medically. It helps people in so many ways. And it could be products. It could be fuel. This is ridiculous, okay? At the end of the day, you want to regulate something. You want to make an industry of it. Oh, let's make packaging. Let's make more environmental problems with all this packaging. You could you could put it in the ground, harvest the flower, do whatever the heck you want with it in your house. You want to make butter, make butter. You want to make oil. You don't like concentrates? Great. But the fact of the matter is don't make more harm. This industry in other states is causing so much pollution. There's packaging everywhere. It's getting into our oceans. You like the ocean? I'm a surfer. You think I really want to see more plastic getting into the ocean and harming our environment? These are all things that we're missing here. Yeah, legalization's great, but the corporate aspect of it is not so great. And access is wonderful, but the corporate aspect has to be put in check. There's got to be soundness to whatever rules we put in place. How about starting by giving people access to these magical beans? How about letting people just buy it and put it in the ground?
Well, that's not going to happen for a long time, unfortunately. And we have to deal with the real world and where we are now. And the problem with decriminalization is that you still wind up penalizing people for possession of marijuana. maybe the penalty is different, but you still wind up penalizing people. New Jersey actually decriminalized marijuana possession. It used to be you'd spend a year in jail for possession of less than an ounce and a $1,000 fine. And now now it's a disorderly persons offense. So it's not a criminal offense, but it still is 6 months in jail and a $500 fine. So that was New Jersey's experience with decriminalization. New York decriminalized marijuana, and they led the nation in marijuana arrests because it was the rule that if your marijuana was in plain view, you could be arrested for that. So it really depends on how the decriminalization works. Senator Rice's bill to decriminalize forces drug treatment, on marijuana offenders. That's his vision of decriminalization. Not only that, but read the bill. Yeah. Not only that, but decriminalization only empowers the illegal market. There is no regulated source of government-controlled and regulated source of marijuana with decriminalization. The decriminalization still depends on the black market, the illegal market. It still has the same problem with minors and all the the contaminated product and not sure of what's in the product. You do not solve the problems with decriminalization, and the state gets nothing out of it. The state does not get its tax. So those are the problems with decriminalization that I see.
We unfortunately do have to call it. We're way over time already. We're all right now.
We're rolling. I wish we had more time, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, it's been a great discussion here tonight, guys. But unfortunately, we're way over. The church wanted us out by 9.
Yes,
so
we're way over.
We
way over.
do have to respect our hosts. But I want to thank everybody so much. Our panel was awesome. You guys were awesome. We want to, if you have a chance, this should be up on New Jersey Revolution Radio's website. That's www.njrevolutionradio.com. You can get it as a podcast if you want to listen to tonight over and over and over again. On there, you can also make a donation. We are totally grassroots here. We bring you in stuff like this based on your donations. So if you can, make a donation out there. If not, you can make it on our website. We have PayPal. We have Patreon. Anything you can do, we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys.